Hey everyone, Curse Deck Builder here, making our way to 10,000 decks assisted, and right now we're looking at Dihada, Binder of Wills, in an Angel Reanimator deck. This is our donation deck for the day, and it comes from Tanner, who says they've been playing Commander for a couple years now, but they're not the best deck builder by any means. They want a more unique / rare deck with Dihada, so they've been trying to create angels / legendaries with a reanimation theme. Heavy emphasis on the angels. They like Dihada for obviously all that Dihada brings to a reanimator strategy, which we will go over, and they definitely want it angel based and a lot of flying and smashing. Let's see, they also say that they're looking for some help with reanimation, some cuts, or other ideas. There's no budget, but they're not looking to get any original dual lands or insanely expensive cards over $125. This is all stuff we can definitely work with, Tanner. Thank you so much for sending your deck, and thank you so much for supporting the channel. I love Dihada. I had a Dihada Reanimator deck just, a few months ago. I really enjoyed it. So this is a fun chance to take a look at a very specific Dihada build, and I'm excited to get into it. If you'd like to take a look at the deck list we're talking about today, or if you'd like to submit your own deck list to me so that I can make a video assisting your deck, please check the video description down below. So who is Dihada, Binder of Wills, and why is she our Reanimator Angel Commander? Well, she mainly works as a Reanimator Commander, but we have an interesting synergy with Angels that I'll get to in a second. She's a 4-mana Mardu that's red, white, and black, legendary Planeswalker. I forgot my favorite color combination for a second. And she is one of those Planeswalkers that we can use as a commander. She has 3 abilities, but like most Planeswalkers, we're really looking at the first 2. The first one is up to 1 target legendary creature gets Vigilance, Lifelink, and Indestructible until your next turn, which is an interesting ability, but we're really using her for the -3. So the -3 says, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put any number of legendary cards from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Create a treasure token for each card put into your graveyard this way. Now this is really notable because we don't actually need to put any legendary cards into our hand. We may, or any number is what it says. So there's just an option to kind of put all 4 cards into the graveyard and gain 4 treasure tokens right away. Using those 4 treasure tokens, we usually have the means to immediately reanimate something if we have the means, hopefully one of the angels that we've put into the graveyard. And then we're kind of in a really good spot because we've paid 4 mana and we've got 4 mana out of it. So we don't really have to stop our strategy or slow down too much to cast Dihada. Then after which, she'll be at 2, so you'll use her +2 again, then you'll -3 again the turn after. That'll get you down to 1 loyalty. And then you could do the same thing, +2 and -3 again. But the weirdest thing is you kind of want your opponents to destroy her or knock her out of the game and back into the command zone, because it's not that much deficit to play her the second time and use that -3 again. You're basically paying 2 additional mana to still get 4 treasures out. And yeah, you're not going even as well, but you are digging deeper. So obviously there's a lot of synergy with Reanimator here, but something that's really nice about her is she makes the mana for you to be able to cast your bigger reanimation spells, your bigger angels. So you're not 100% dependent on reanimating them, and I really do like that. I do like also obviously that and this is the angel synergy, is a lot of our angels are legendary and they're very strong, and I do like how they interact with Dihada. I think they're giving those extra abilities are very notable and can make even mid-sized angels into very dangerous threats. It's also notable that the indestructibility lasts until your next turn, which is good to kind of protect you, and I think that's the intended play, is you use them to protect Dihada through kind of the turn cycle. I think Dihada is a big character, or one of the OG Planeswalkers, if I remember correctly. I don't know who she is, and she's got crazy weird tentacles, and I can't imagine she's a nice lady. So This is definitely an interesting commander for an Angel deck. Looking at the deck list itself, we've got a very big sideboard, which I'm going to go through because a lot of my additions are here. Not all of them, and some of them I focus on the Angel additions mostly on my side, but we'll look at sorceries and like instants and the like in here. But otherwise, the deck itself, I think, is pretty good. We look at the curve. The curve makes a lot of sense for a reanimation deck. And even then, it kind of doesn't go as far as you'd expect and kind of tops off around 6 and 7. And 5 mana, we've got quite a bit. And 4 mana, we have quite a bit. And we're going to have to go through those because obviously 4 mana cards kind of conflict with our commander. Otherwise, starting off the top, when it comes to lands, I do feel like we could probably go up to 37, 38. We don't have the means of a lot of land ramp, and we are trying to cast big creatures, so having a little more on the land side, I think, is pretty nice. Let's see. The lands are generally very good. I am noticing a distinct lack of fetch lands, and fetch lands are not $125. But no, we have shock lands. I think it couldn't hurt, because we're in 3 colors, to play some fetch lands. You could go through the cheapest ones. I imagine Arid Mesa, and then all the enemy lands will be the cheapest first, because they were reprinted last, and then grabbing whatever ally lands you can. Remember, you don't have to have a fetch land that has, like, you can play, for example, Verdant Catacombs, even though it fetches for forests, but you don't mind because you're just going to use it to grab a swamp. And I think we could also play the Triome, Savai Triome, I believe it is, and I think that would help the mana quite a bit. All right, so before we go through everything, let's do the thing I like to do, and let's look at the number 4, because this is our commander, and we want to look at some cards that we think are maybe not as important to have in the deck because they conflict with our commander. Now, a lot of these don't need to necessarily be cast, and I feel like most of these we're going to keep. Starting with Anger, obviously Anger is not a card you want to cast, and I think you're pretty happy just discarding it or putting it into your graveyard through milling it, so I don't particularly see this as a 4 mana card, so that's fine. Archangel of Tithes. So there's going to be a vibe of the angels that I want to take out and the angels I want to put in, and the angels I want to put in are often like this card, where their main abilities are not about beating face, because your angels are very good at beating face. They're flying, they have generally good bodies with high power or high enough power, and you don't really need to help them smash. What you need is to stay in the game. And Archangel of Tithes is good for that reason, because what you can do is both on defense and offense, this card is just very good, and by giving her vigilance, you get away with a lot of, like, really good plays. However, one thing about her is that she's very hard into white mana, so it makes her kind of difficult to cast. So I am a little suspicious of her, but she fits the archetype that I want, so I'm going to say keep her for now, but keep that in mind because it's close. Gisela, obviously, we want both halves to meld, so I have no complaints here. She is definitely just a beater, but that's fine. A very strong beater with a very good payoff of transforming her into Griselda. Let's see. Kalia is good. I think she's a bit of a trap, because once you get her out, because she's not a payoff, she is really good because she allows you to play your angels out of hand, but you have enough haste enablers. This one's close. I do really like Kalia here, but I do note that it does put you in a situation where you're kind of setting up with a 4 mana card, which is basically what your commander does. That being said, I wouldn't mind to play your commander -4, immediately drop Kalia with the 4 treasures. That would be a very good play. And I do think that would be fine, so I'm not going to be too hard on her. Kardur. We don't want Kardur. Kardur does not fit this strategy. Not only is he a demon, all he does is goad an opponent, or goad all your opponents That's it. It just goads all your opponents once. And I don't really think you can really benefit from this ability. Cards are as good as a commander or with a lot of blink or reanimation strategies. And you do have a lot of reanimation strategies, but you can reanimate much better cards, and you need a sack outlet to keep destroying this card. I don't think this is particularly good. Both of the parts of this card aren't very impressive. And the one damage, like if your angel dies, that's not ideal, and you'd rather just like getting that one life consolation prize for your angel isn't great. So Cardor can be taken out pretty easy. Mangara the Diplomat, though I do like Mangara, I don't think this is the deck for it. This works in a much more goading, even though I just told you to take out the goading card. They do work better in a goading shell. And even then, who's attacking you? Right? Like, genuinely, who's attacking you? You have giant angels and a really good defensive situation. No one's attacking into you, and they're never going to attack into you with two creatures if they can help it, right? So you're never going to get that first effect, and then each opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. If this was like monologue tax, maybe, but at 4 mana, this just clashes with our commander, and I'm not too impressed by it. So I think this is an easy cut as well. Odoric, also a very, very easy cut. I recognize very, very cute with a bunch of different abilities. To be honest, I think I would like the other Odoric, which I don't know if we're playing. Let me see. 3 mana Odoric. Doesn't look like it. Yeah, if you really like Odoric, I would rather play Odoric Blood Cursed because the blood tokens are going to be very valuable to you. Granted, this isn't that good of a card either, and you got to get really lucky. You got to have angels out, and most likely you're getting 1 or 2 abilities because your commander, though your commander does provide how many abilities here? Our commander, actually I have it right here. Vigilance, Lifelink, Indestructible. Do we care about those? Indestructible, Lifelink, and I'm sure Vigilance. Yep. So with upticking on your commander on any one of your legendary creatures and playing Odric, you get 3 blood tokens. And I think that's fine. I think that's much better because then you can use those to discard angels and reanimate them. But going back to regular Odric, this just feels really, really cute. Now, the biggest one you could have is Haste. And that's really nice, but as far as I can tell, almost all the methods you have to give haste. So hammer, you're not playing any of the boots, anger. All of these methods of haste give haste to everything. Goro. So it doesn't actually really matter that the haste is shared because all your haste is always shared. And that's honestly the most important part. You might say, but cursed, what about indestructibility that we can easily get from our commander? It's each combat, which means there's a whole phase, a first main phase, where your creatures do not have indestructible. And with that in mind, like your main creature keeps the indestructibility, but the other ones need to get refreshed every turn. So it's actually not going to stop anything but combat. And once again, I just don't think that's a zone you really like a place you need help with. Combat, you should have a really good like a big control over it. So you don't really need something like this. Dread Return is really good. I will say it's obviously not 4 mana. It's a flashback card. I'm wondering to what degree it's going to be difficult to sacrifice 3 creatures in a deck like this. You don't have a lot of token production, and you don't want to sacrifice 3 angels to get 1 angel back. Usually, there are exceptions. So I recommend testing this a bit. And if it doesn't really feel right, we might have to adjust how this card works or what card we replace this with, because don't get me wrong, the flashback is really, really strong, but here we're just kind of in a bad situation because we just can't really trade 3 angels for 1 usually. Akroma's Will is a fantastic finisher. I think that's fine. The One Ring, this is not the kind of deck I particularly like with the One Ring, but it's not terrible, right? The problem is that you play Dihada, right? You make 4 treasures, you cast the One Ring, and you say pass. Then everyone just attacks into Dihada and knocks her out, right? Because you gain protection, but your cards do not. So this is just a really easy way to get Dihada, well, killed, but at the same time, you could say maybe that's what I want. Still, I don't know if that's worthwhile. Excuse me. I don't think we can really make do with the huge amount of card draw. Like, we need the right cards. This is why I was going to suggest, and Tanner did talk about this, about tutors and whether tutors would be good for the deck. I really didn't think that tutors are good for the deck because it's not about card quantity here, it's card quality. Reanimation decks really want to get the right cards, not like a very, very large amount of cards. So the One Ring I don't really like. I know it's a very good card. I know it fits in a lot of commander decks, but here especially, I'm not sure to what degree I'm that interested in. It is legendary, so whoops, I did not mean to do that. It is legendary, so we can pull it with Dihada pretty easily, but even then, I'm not sure if it's worth pulling a lot of the time. And then Smothering Tithe is mana, so I do love it. I think that's fine. So a few cards here and there. Let's look through. Look through a few of the cards that kind of stick out at me, and probably some of the bigger angels before we go into additions. So all of our sorceries I absolutely love. Our instants I absolutely love. This 11 card collection is just very, very strong. Our artifacts I like. I like that we're playing Felwar Stone. I think I would play, if you can play instead of Conviction, if you actually, is that true? No, we're playing the white ones. That's probably better. Okay, that's probably the correct call. Palantir is interesting here. I do like that it's very, very liable to burn opponents out if they don't draw you a card. So I think that's pretty good. And once again, it is legendary, so I do like that. Urza's Incubator, though, I don't know if I like that as much. I think this is too much. This is too much into angels in a way our deck doesn't need to be. Right? We can produce mana really, really easily through our commander. You know, we can play our commander, make 4 treasure, and just leave it there, and next turn untap with like 8 to 9 mana. We don't need Urza's Incubator to do this, right? It's just overkill. Yes, it'll make it nice and easy to kind of cast some more angels at once, but this is quality, not quantity, and Incubator is very good at quantity. So with that in mind, I think this is an easy cut. Enchantments also very, very good. Let's go to our angels. And I'm going to go from bottom to top because I do really like trying to cut on big CMC. And even though we're in Reanimator, we should be considering, getting rid of the big ones first. Soraya, obviously very, very strong because she reanimates her own angels or other creatures. Already very, very good. That flavor text is just so horrendous. I really like it. Really reminds me of that black-white enchantment, the hybrid one with the Orzhov, that you don't get to die. You are there as long as the Orzhov need you. And this text is very, very similar. Like, angels are not necessarily good. I know we're past that cliche of white mana being the good guys, but white mana can be very horrifying, and I think this is a very good idea of the horror of white's, self-righteousness. Avacyn, obviously very, very strong, straight up everything indestructible, you can't go wrong. I think this is another reason why I don't like Odric. Like, this is a main way that we get indestructibility on our cards, and Avacyn doesn't need you to share it. It already gets shared, so very, very good card, very happy. Achroma, are we playing both Achromas or just the one? It looks like we're playing just the one. So big Achroma. So here's the thing. I get it. This is a very fun, very strong card, and she beats face. But that's also all she does. So for the sake of how much I love this character and I love this card, it's a very classic card, I'm going to say keep her in because she's fantastic. But remember that all she does is beat face. She does nothing else. She doesn't even have lifelink until your commander gives it to her, which is a really big problem because when you've spent like this much mana or you've reanimated this card, there's only so much you can do. Swinging for 6 turn after turn is not as impressive as I would like. If she was like an 8/8, I think I would like it a bit more, but she does have her limits. She does have a lot of very, very relevant text, so I'm not going to be too hard on her, but it's important to note that she doesn't have Indestructible. Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile are very good of taking her out of the game. Just beware, she is just a beater. All right. Sephara. Sephara, yeah. Sephara Sky's Blade. Now, this one's interesting because we have an alternative casting cost, but I don't think we can really make this casting cost work. This is very much so win more. If we have 4 flyers, most likely we have 4 different angels out. And if we have 4 different angels out, do you really want to tap, like, we can give them vigilance, don't get me wrong, but do you really want to tap them out of the game or of a round just to play this card? Like, she's a lot better. She's a 7, like, she's stronger than a Chroma, I would say. She's a 7/7 flying lifelink, giving other creatures indestructible, is really, really nice. But for her herself, I think there's an upward limit of how good she is. If you can't cast her from the command zone, if you don't have that many flyers in the deck, I think she's severely weakened. So I'm not too impressed by her. I am really, really impressed by that art. But this is one that I would say probably get rid of, but I'm going to be a little more open there. Gisela, obviously, OG Gisela is incredibly strong, doubles all the damage, halves all damage at you. Nothing to complain about. And this is what I mean, right? This is exactly like, she's just a 5/5. She's not a beater. What she brings is a beating. That wasn't intended. But she comes in, you know, I can imagine her, like, I always think of her with a sword, but I imagine her now with her fist just giving everyone a beating. And what she represents is the doubling damage that all of your other permanents will enjoy, as well as her. So we don't need cards like a Chroma to smash face. Gisela is already there enabling that face smashing. Let's look at Elish Norn. This one's very interesting to me. I really like Elish Norn, and I like reanimating them. She's really strong, but once again, this is kind of a deck that I don't see her being as powerful in, because no one's contesting us. Like, she's still good, and I'm still going to play with her, but I want you to think about her when you play her, because I don't think she nominally really helps our angels. Like, +2/+2 on angels is not that important. We're only going to have a few angels out, whereas Elish Norn is obviously much better when you have a huge army of creatures. But she's also really good against an army of creatures, and that's why I'm going to say keep her in, because she's just a phenomenal card that I like. Let's see. Bruna, obviously, other half of our Eldrazi. Our other Akroma. I think this is pushing it. Obviously, very, very good with Odric. Obviously, very, very good with OG Akroma. This card can represent, you know, what, +5, +4 onto a creature. That's really, really cool. But that's kind of all she really represents, right? And there's a bunch of angels that it's just +2/+2. And some angels, this, I think it's even just +1/+1. I know there's a few out there, like something like Angelic Skirmisher is only +1/+1. So there's a bunch of these effects. How do I put this? There's a bunch of these effects that are really based on combat abilities, and I think they're kind of win more here, right? They don't further your win plan. Like, your angels having vigilance doesn't make a big difference, right? And I want to remove those things because your angels are going to smash. They're going to, no one contests angels in combat, right? No one is, not the goblin deck, maybe the dragon's deck, but not even. Like, you have the superior fighters on the field almost all of the time. So by giving them all of these different abilities, it's like First Strike, for example, it's just kind of meaningless on angels because they're just going to smash. They already have natural evasion. Nothing can stop them. Same thing with Trample, funnily enough. So this collection of these cards that improve how strong our angels are when they're out, I'm really disinterested in it. It's just not that good for us because most of the time we're just going to feel like we're just going to rather have something that sets our opponents back. Like, imagine Akroma here. She gives other creatures, let's say +2/+2 generally. Elish Norn is just so much better, right? It is not just at the beginning of combat, it's constant. It also subtracts -2/-2 from all your opponent's creatures. So even though in combat you already win, all of a sudden the difference between you and your opponent's creatures in combat is 4 power and 4 toughness. And that's insane. So why would you play something that generally buffs Bruna into a 7/9 when El Shnorn will do the same thing but better, right? So that in mind, not very interested in this Akroma. I will also say, like, this Akroma also works really well with Akroma's Will, but once again, you don't need to work well with Akroma's Will. Akroma's Will is insane, right? Like, it's such a strong card. It often spells doom to 1 or 2 players, maybe even the whole table if you have the right situation. Why do you need to make this card better? This card is already really good. All right, let's see what's next. Valkyrie Harbinger. If you gain 4 or more life this turn, create a 4/4. This isn't a life gain deck. This shouldn't be in here. Even with your angels smashing with lifelink, there is a limit to how those angels can attack or defend. Your opponents will stop attacking you. And to be honest, getting 6 mana to get a 4/5 and a 4/4 in 1 turn, I don't know if it's worth it. If this was a life gain deck and could consistently do it, especially since it's each end step, I want to do this on other players' turns, I don't really think it's that impressive. Especially because there's going to be turns where this is your first card you reanimate. Like some games, this will be the first card you can reanimate, and you have to wait a turn cycle to attack with it to create another 4/4. Doesn't feel really impressive. I want this ability right away, and I want this ability consistently on other people's turns. Like, that's what she's balanced around. So if we're not doing that, we're not using her to her full strength. I don't know why I'm clicking away. I could just click back. All right, Sarah's Guardian. Vigilance, other creatures you control have Vigilance. This is unnecessary. We have, a lot of our angels have Vigilance. Our commander gives Vigilance. This is 6 mana for a 5/5. She's just a beater. We don't need a beater. We can cut her pretty easily. Rodolph Duskbringer. I read this earlier. Gain life, you get indestructible. End step, pay 2. Reanimate value X, where X is the amount of life you gain. Okay, this is very similar. I think this one I like more, but how much life do we need to gain? We need to be able to gain like 9 life, right? Because then we can reanimate anything from our deck. How easy is it to gain 9 life? He only gains 4. I think I'm going to say no to this one. I think it's really cool. It has some interesting play with smaller creatures, but in this deck, I just don't see it being as strong. Like, it's a lot of work to summon this creature, then you have to gain life, and then you need to have 2 additional mana. I think that's too many hoops to jump through, whereas things like Bruna, who I glossed over, has a very strong reanimation ability. But Bruna and Rhea just do these better. They're stronger creatures, and they don't have this weird life gain synergy that they need to do and pay mana or additional mana in order to do that effect. I think this is easy to cut. I did the same thing. Let's go back. Aurelia. This is when she attacks the first time. I think this is great. This is kind of just a beater, but it enables for your entire deck to be beaters. I think this is fine. The fact that she comes with haste obviously is very strong, and she comes out and smashes face and enables a lot of face smashing. This is great. Notably, once again, she not only has Vigilance, but she untaps all the creatures that have attacked, or actually all creatures. So once again, Vigilance on your creatures is really not that necessary. Athreos is really cool. I think this is a fun reanimation, and I really want to know how this does in the deck, because I think this is a really cool addition, and I think it'll do very well. Angel Skirmisher, same thing as before. Beginning of each combat, choose one of these abilities. So, which one do you choose? First Strike, not very relevant. Vigilance, most of your angels have Vigilance. Or Lifelink. Both of those last 2 are given by your commander. So, I just don't think this is really impressive. Like, this is good in decks that need these abilities and have creatures that cannot gain these abilities easily, like a Death Touch deck, giving them all First Strike, for example. But here, not so much. Here, she is giving your cards something they already have, and she's a 4/4 for 6. We can do much better. Sigarda's Vanguard. I have looked at this card before, and I think it's really cool. This one I really like. This one is really good. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of situation that this is an incredibly powerful card. This is a weird Coven card, because this is from the Coven deck, right? This is a very weird Coven card, and when this works, you're going to love it. And when it doesn't work, I think it's still fine. In situations where all of your creatures are, let's just imagine all of our angels are like 6/6s. Who cares? Giving a 6/6 double strike is really, really good, right? And the fact that she also triggers on attack, very, very good. I'm very impressed with this card. I like it very, very much. Lyra, I don't like Lyra. I really don't. I don't think angels need +1/+1. She's just a beater. She doesn't really do much. You can keep her because she is like one of the angel cards, and I get that. But these are things that our angels don't need, right? Our angels are big enough. Our angels, a lot of them have lifelink or it's given by our commander. We just really don't need that ability. Herald of War is really, really slow to get going. It belongs in a +1/+1 counter deck. And even then, you don't really need, like, it's going to be so much work for this to reduce your angel's cost that I don't think it's worth it. Once again, otherwise, it just smash face. That's all she does. And she doesn't do it particularly well either. Goldspan Dragon's great. Celestine. Celestine. At the beginning of your end step, return target creature where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So obviously this is much, much better than Rodolph, who's still here. So I like her a lot more. Yeah, I think that's it. That's the full thought. So play Celestine for sure. I think you have enough lifelink that you don't need to worry about gaining more. And the fact that this doesn't require a investment in mana, she's also 1 mana less. I like that a lot. Is there going to be situations where she doesn't do anything? Yes, but this is better. This is much better because if you set up, she is a very, very good payoff for gaining a ton of life in one attack. Aurelia, she's not out yet. Flying, Vigilance, Haste. Whenever a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. When a player attacks 5 or more creatures, I don't think this is where you want to be unless your opponents have a lot of token strategies. That's the only time she's good. Otherwise, I think if you're attacking with 3 or more angels, you're winning the game usually. Like, your angels are really, really expensive. So if you get them out and you're smashing face with them, I don't think you really need the card draw. So I don't like this, but I can see why this would be a fun card. Archangel of Thune, very, very very strong. Often with infinite combos. I think I like this more if we had Aristocrat meat cards, which we do. We did have one that I've asked you to remove, which was our 4 mana Cardur, which was like, whenever your attacking creatures die, you gain a life, but you don't even want that because then you have nothing to put the +1/+1 counters on. This can be good if you put some more like Soul Sisters effects. Like, this is really strong, but it's a little clunky. Mainly because your main way to gain life is lifelink, which means the attack has gone through. But there's some situations with First Strike that I think this should be kept in. I think she's really, really strong. But if you really want to make the most out of her, you're going to have to make some adjustments. All right. We've already looked through all the 4 mana stuff. I'm going to really quickly look through the rest, and the rest looks really good. Okay, so I've picked apart a lot of angels. Let's get right into some angels. I have about 7 here that I've seen that I'm interested in, and then we can talk about other additions from the side here. So, actually, let's talk about Ragavan. Is Ragavan worth playing? I'm about to put Ragavan into a deck, so it's not that I don't like Ragavan in Commander, it's that Ragavan needs help to get through. So either you need to be playing a lot of removal or easy ways to give him evasion, and I don't think you really have the means to do either. Like, once again, if you put back those cards like Odric, I think that's fine. I think I skipped 2, I'll come back to them. But even then, I don't think it's worthwhile. You're going to get a few attacks in. If we had, like, if this was equipment deck or we had a way to give him menace or unblockability, I would like him a lot more. But I feel like Ragavan's going to hit once or twice and then just stay on the battlefield sad. So with that in mind, I'm not too impressed here. Let's go to the 2 angels I missed. Angel of Suffering is really, really cool. I don't think you'll ever be milled out this way. And it works really well with your strategy, so I do think this is very neat. Anya. I don't like this. She's just a beater. She's just a beater who's just a Sarah Angel without vigilance. Yeah, yeah, she's not good. She's really good in the second half, right, of the game when someone's life is low, where she's a 7/7 indestructible for 5, but you don't care about the mana cost because you were going to cheat her out anyways, so I don't see this being the best one. All right, let's look at some additions. There we go. This is kind of a weird order, so I'm going to get it out as we can. So let's start with Linvala, Keeper of Silence. This is a very, very strong card. I think this is a very easy, this is like the theming of the kind of cards I want to add. She's got a good body of 3/4 flying, but the main reason we like her is that she has this really, really aggressive ability that can completely shut down certain decks, right? This is one of those activated ability things that doesn't say accept mana abilities. So that's very, very specifically means all your opponent's mana dorks, right? And that means any form of aristocrats. That means a lot of typal or kindred based strategies no longer can work. That's a bunch of value creatures no longer do anything, and a bunch of commanders also no longer do anything. So she is very, very strong, and I think a very easy inclusion into this kind of deck. And then Linvala again is Drana and Linvala with almost an identical effect, a 3/4 vigilance. So we've gained vigilance, activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated, and these two gain all those activated abilities, and you can use mana in any way to do that. So honestly, I would play both. This ability is so strong in Commander, and you should definitely be taking advantage of it, because your ability to just shut down entire strategies is it's so strong, while they're just good beaters. They're just 3/4 flyers. They really, those elves no longer can tap for mana. What are they going to do? Attack into you? You have a 3/4 flyer. So this card being able to shut down a whole strategy is really, really nice. I very much do like it. Let's see another card that another two cards that represent the same angel that both shut down different strategies. What a weird coincidence. Let's look at Lisa. I think some people say Liesa, but I think it's Lisa. Lisa, Forgotten Archangel. So this one says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, it returns to your hand at the next end step, and then if your opponent's creatures would die, they would exile. This one's specifically for aristocrat decks, but it works really, really well against certain reanimation decks, certain other forms of cards that really want the same creatures to die. Other death effects no longer trigger. And she's a 4/5 for 5 with lifelink. So once again, she's already a beater, very, very strong creature. So I like her for sure. One thing is there is a bit of a nombo, because when you use her, your angels don't die anymore, which means you can't easily reanimate them. But I will argue that later in the game, bringing them back to your hand is arguably better. And for that reason, you're pretty happy with that result. My God, look at this. You can barely even see her. I can't believe double feature happened. What a strange thing. But let's look at her other version. This is Lisa, Shroud of Dusk. And this is her in the past, but I do really like this one. Now, her first text is kind of meaningless because you're not using her as your commander. But that last text of whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. So this shuts down Spellslinger decks, this shuts down Storm decks, this shuts down any form of deck that wants to cast multiple spells a turn or an infinite amount of spells. This will make a very, very big difference in. And she will also just generally cap people's life totals. Every turn they're losing 2 to 4. And I think people really underestimate how fast that adds up, especially when you have Lisa just smashing in for 5 every turn. And obviously the lifelink's there to offset the fact that you lose the life too. But these two Lisas are very, very strong. So these 4 are my main ones that I wanted to put in immediately, because they're all aggressively statted, they're all aggressively costed, and they all shut down strategies, which is really, really good. But we've got a few others here. Archangel Avacyn is very, very interesting to me. Mainly because, once again, this is another Flash Angel, and I really like Flash Angels because they give you a different avenue to kind of attack in. She's very good at stopping a board clear, so that's very important against you because that is a way your opponents will try to deal with you. And then eventually, and this is the hard part, but if you can get a non-angel creature to die, which you have some but not many, you'll get Avacyn the Purifier. The thing with Avacyn the Purifier is she shouldn't kill any of your angels, right? 3 damage shouldn't kill almost any of your angels, and I think that's very, very relevant. This is just kind of a bonus. Is it a May? You don't have a May, so you do have to transform into this, but I don't think there's situations where you're going to be hurt by this transformation. Also, if you can give her lifelink in a way, that's a lot of life you'll gain in one go. But I think Avacyn the Archangel and Purifier are both very, very cool. I love this card so much. I think she had a cute to brute that this side is incredibly... it just says pray. So good. Absolutely. Archangel Avacyn is fantastic. Let's find that original art. I don't want to buy you. Oh, well, she's gone forever. Okay. So next I have a card I'm sure is also on your sideboard. I think I saw it was Lulu Loyal Hollyphant. Now, this is interesting to me because it's kind of a non-bow with Vigilance, but you can very easily push this card to put a +1/+1 counter each turn because of the treasure tokens. Is that good enough? No, I don't think so. I just wanted to see it because I thought it was I'd never seen this card, or if I had, it immediately left my brain, and it is very, very interesting because they come with a background, but this is not where we want to be. And now here's the card that I think is notably missing, and it's Tariel, Reckoner of Souls. This is notably missing, right? This is a legendary angel. It is a reanimation card. Granted, it reanimates from your opponent's decks, but it's on theme. She's super, super metal. Almost like anime style. She has those weird glasses. I think that's pretty cool. This is definitely someone you can play really, really easily. It's a fun card. Is it very good? No. But does that matter? Like, she's metal. Player. What a good time. Has she ever got any other art? No. All right. Those are my angel editions. I want to really quickly go through some of the editions you have here that I didn't need to put aside that I think are really worth considering. So let's go through the ones that are always good. Obviously, Entomb is always, always good. Buried Alive is always, always good. Though it's not here, Unmarked Grave, even though it can't get all of your angels that are legendary, it can still get some of your angels in other cards that might be still worthwhile. Victimize is really good as opposed to Dread Return where you go 3 for 1. This is 1 for 2, which is a lot better. Obviously, Demonic Tutor and the like are very, very strong. Stitched Together is a card that you can definitely play in a deck like this because Threshold is very, very easy to put together with your commander, but sometimes it just puts the card back in your hand, so you got to be careful with that. Let's see. Anything else that particularly catches my eye? I think, okay, so Yawgmoth's Vile Offering and Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. So the Primeval's Glorious Rebirth feels like this is supposed to be your win condition at a certain point because it's legendary, which means that you can pull it out with your commander. You have the legendary Planeswalker, so you can always cast it. It's very, very strong, and it guarantees reanimating almost all of your angels. So you should definitely play this as like your strongest spell, like this, like your finish the game spell. But even then, I don't know how clean that is versus something like Yawgmoth's Vile Offering, which is very, very easily, destroy one creature, reanimate a angel, and you just kind of move on. And I do like that a little more. I think that's generally it. I think there was a few other things. I think you could also play if you wanted like Faithless Looting effects, specifically Faithless Looting, so that you could dig cards out of your hand. But because of our commander, we really do have the means to cast our angels out, so I don't think it's as necessary. And I do feel like I could go on for another like 15 minutes about cards, but I think this is around the time I do want to stop this. I've covered a lot of cards that I like and a lot of cards that I dislike, so there's a lot of changes already to be done with the creatures. I think the approach I'd like you to take is to reduce the number of angels to only the ones that you feel are the most impactful. And we're not going to lose too many total number angels because I've already suggested to put in at least 5, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 6. So we should be close to the same amount of angels, but if we remove angels and we don't put any in, we should be putting Entomb, we should be putting Buried Alive to make sure that we get the right angels in our graveyard so that we can reanimate them. It's not about always having the strongest angels, it's about having the right angels. If you can get Linvala out either way, if you can get one of the Lisas out at the right time, you might be able to buy yourself enough time to get into the other cards. Whereas if you just reanimate something like Gisela, she represents a very, very strong turn, but if you can't like capitalize on that moment and take out all your opponents, you kind of just made yourself into a target and you're just going to have a really hard time surviving the next few turns. So with that in mind, we need to be a bit careful. Obviously, someone like Avacyn is just very, very good in a deck like this, so reanimating her could be just the one you go for a lot of the time. Still, I really like this deck. Thank you so much for sending it. I think this is a very good version of Dihada Reanimator. Using angels is really, really smart because I think it works very well with Dihada and sets up a lot of really interesting board states while using a creature type that just naturally smashes face. So you don't really need to worry too much about being all in on a strategy so that you get to play these like angels that are very disruptive while still threatening or like presenting a clock and threatening your opponents. If you'd like to send me another version of this deck or any deck, you can find a link in the video description down below. And if you'd like to like, comment, subscribe, I'd be ever so grateful. I've been talking a lot right now, so I'll say thank you so much, Tanner. This is a great deck. Thank you for sending it. Thank you for supporting the channel, and thank you for your support in me and what I do. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. And thank you for sending such a sweet deck. I'm really excited to see, more Reanimator decks. I know a few people have contacted me saying that they love Reanimator, so we might see more of them. But here we are now with Dihada, and I love it. All right, good luck.